In today's video, I'll be testing 5 different methods to see which way is the best way to get cobblestone with the create mod, including some that make tons of cobblestone and some that aren't so good. And to rank each of the 5 methods, we'll be using 3 criteria, and the 3 criteria are how fast the method can make the cobblestone. The second is how easy is that method to set up, and the third is how automatic is the method. And this basically means, do you have to do something all the time to keep it making cobblestone, or can you just let it sit there? And this is also you know what the best way to get cobblestone is in your world. So let's get into it. So this first method is going to be just manually using a pickaxe and mining out the stone by hand. And this is pretty good early game, but it doesn't make you that much cobblestone. And of course you can make this faster by using efficiency 5 and a beacon with haste. However, by the time you have a beacon and an efficiency 5 diamond or netherite pickaxe, you're most likely going to need more cobblestone than you can get by just doing this. And also the fact that you have to do this manually will place this pretty low on our list. And don't worry, the methods for obtaining cobblestone are only going to get better from here on out. And make sure to watch to the end to see the fastest way to make cobblestone. So I think for this it's only fair to give 2 criteria, since mining without and with haste 2 are vastly different. So without haste, my score for how fast it can get cobblestone is going to be a 2 out of 10, which is pretty fair because, you know, you only get about 2 cobblestone a second, which is pretty bad. However, for how easy it is to set up, I will be giving it a 10 out of 10 because all you need is to have a pickaxe and stone to mine, both of which are very easy to get. And for how automatic it is, I'm going to be giving it a 1 out of 10 since it is not automatic at all. As for the scoring with haste, I'll be giving it a 7 out of 10 for how fast it can get blocks, since you can really get about 1,000 blocks a minute, which is a pretty good amount. And for how easy it is to set up, I'll give it a 3 because you have to get a beacon, which means you need to kill a wither, and then you also need an efficiency 5 pickaxe, and then tons of blocks of gold, iron, emerald, diamond, or whatever else. But with that, I think it's time to move on to method 2. Alright, so method 2 is going to be a mining machine that is on a minecart contraption. And if you haven't heard of one of these, then I'll show you what it is. But first, I'll show you how to build one. And the first thing you'll want to do is get a rail, place a cart assembler on it, and place a minecart with furnace on top of the rail inside the cart assembler. And this minecart with furnace is going to be what we can use to move that mining drill so it'll start mining all the blocks. And then we're going to need to place down a block along with a chest, another block on the end with one below it, and then we'll place a mechanical plow here. And what this is going to do is this is going to pick up the rails that we leave behind, and to place the rails in front of the minecart, we'll place a block here. We'll need one deployer just like this, and we'll want to make sure that it is 2 blocks above the ground, because if you have it 1 block above, it's not going to place the rail. And as long as you make sure that this has a filter to only place rails on the side, and that it's 2 blocks above the ground, it's just going to keep placing rails. And if we add in a few rails to this chest, it'll actually keep recycling them because this plow picks up the rails that it's left behind, puts them in this chest so they can be used by this deployer again. And you could just put your drills on the front of this and call that good, but we do want a way to keep it from falling into any holes, since if you were to have this block broken, that minecart is just going to fall into the hole because a deployer cannot place a rail where there's nothing to place it on. And to give it something to place on, we can place a deployer that is left 1 block and down 1. And we can give this a filter of cobblestone. And then we'll also need to connect this up to each other by placing a block here. And the last thing we need to do is just put down our drills, just like this. Technically, that was the last thing we needed to do to build the actual contraption, since we still need to super glue all of this together. And we can easily super glue by clicking on the block you want to start the super glue at, and then drag your cursor over to another block, and then once you right click again, any blocks in between those will be all glued together. And you'll want to keep doing this until it looks like every single block has some glue on it. And you also don't need to glue up this plow to this block, since the plow can't go anywhere without the block. And we'll need to set this cart assembler on the little side square here to lock rotation, because that means that if this minecart accidentally starts going backwards, it's not going to flip this whole contraption around and make it backwards, since you probably don't want that. And in doing that, it'll also place rails like sideways, so if you lock the rotation, it won't ever turn around. Oh, and if you wanted, you could also place a seat somewhere on this and then super glue that, just so you have somewhere to sit on it and you don't have to walk behind it. And then we can go ahead and give this cart assembler a redstone signal, and then we can pick up this cart assembler, and you'll have to place another rail beneath your cart and make sure that you have one in front so it can actually start the whole build up. Then you can use just a piece of coal and give it to the back of that minecart furnace, and it'll start moving forward, although I don't know what just happened there. You might want to start it a little bit further back. And if you ever get it in a place like this where it's all messed up, what you can do is actually crouch right click on the furnace minecart with a wrench, and that'll pick up the whole contraption with all of the loot that's inside of it. Then you can go ahead and place it back down and start it back up again. And now all you have to do is just sit on this and it'll just keep mining. To rank this method, it'll actually be a little bit difficult, since you can make this have as many drills as you want, which means that this could make something like 1,000,000 cobblestone an hour, or it could make just a couple hundred per hour, which means that ranking it with the first criteria is not very fair to it. So I think I'll just have to go in the middle and give it a 5. And as for how easy this is to set up, you'll only ever need to build it once, which is good. However, you do need to go find a place where you can start the drill, and then you need to give it coal, and it also doesn't require that many blocks to build, which is why I'll be giving it a solid 6 out of 10 for how easy it is to set up. And finally, for how automatic it is, and I would say that this build is semi-automatic because you do need to fuel it every once in a while and empty it out, since it doesn't just have infinite storage, although the more storage you add, the less you have to empty it out. And I think it's fair to give this a 5 out of 10 for how automatic it is. However, I think I'll be giving it a bonus point, since it not only gets cobblestone, but it can also get you ores and andesite and other stuff that you may need without having to do any extra automation. And now let's go ahead and move on to the next method. Now this next method here is going to be using a mechanical drill that is spinning at 256 RPM, and it'll just drop its cobblestone into a chute that goes into a chest. And for this tiny little contraption, it makes 109 cobblestone every minute, which is 6,540 an hour. And it only costs 2 large water wheels worth of stress. And you could probably build this whole thing by just seeing it from this angle right here. But just in case you wanted me to go block by block, I'll show you how to do that real quick. Everything that you see in my inventory right now is all you're going to need for this build. And we'll start off by placing a double chest with a chute like this. And above the chute, we'll need a piece of cobblestone with a mechanical drill facing into it from the back. Then we'll connect up that mechanical drill to a large cogwheel with a rotation speed controller underneath, which is going to be set to 256 RPM. We'll give this large water wheels just like that. We'll need to break out 2 blocks so the water can flow. We'll place a temporary block here with 4 copycat panels surrounding it, as well as 2 copycat panels to the side and under the mechanical drill. Then we'll need 2 panels or blocks or whatever you want to use to block off the water from flowing on this side. Then we can place our 2 water buckets. We need to set this to 1 RPM temporarily. Then we can place our cobblestone here, our water and the mechanical drill, just like this, and our lava on top. Then we set this back to 256 RPM, and now you'll be getting your 109 cobblestone every minute with this super simple build. So the first criteria, I'll be giving it a 4 out of 10 because it's not the fastest at making cobblestone. It's still pretty good, but I just don't think it's worthy of a higher number. However, for the second criteria, how easy it is to set up, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it literally only takes 14 blocks plus the water and lava. And as for how automatic it is, I'll be giving it a 10 out of 10 because once you build it, you don't have to do anything. Now that we know the final score for this, it's time to move on to the second last method, and this one is a pretty good one. Now this is the next design, and this may look a little bit confusing, but this is doing just a few basic things. First of all is that to make the cobblestone, we have these mechanical pumps which are waterlogged, and that lets the water flow down, and then above those mechanical pumps is lava fluid tanks, which allows that lava to go out and mix with the water to make cobblestone. And these windmill sail frames are what is breaking that cobblestone, but to allow the cobblestone to be made, you need those windmill sail frames to not be there, since you can't just have water flow into a block. And that's where this minecart contraption comes in. So basically, we have a lever here that sends a redstone signal to this block, and that will power on the cart assembler. And once that gets powered, it'll pick up this block and all the sail frames. But then once that block gets picked up, the cart assembler will lose its redstone signal from the lever, causing it to put the whole contraption back down. And that little time where it gets picked up is enough for cobblestone to be generated, and once it's generated, it sits itself back down and breaks it, where these hoppers go ahead and pick up that cobblestone and put it into this vault. And I haven't had this running for very long, and it already has this entire double chest full of cobblestone, which is pretty good. And if you wanted to know, these are the rates of the farm. It gets 2,592 cobblestone per minute, which is about 155,000 per hour, and it only costs 108 stress units. I did not mean to break that sign. Which means it can be powered by a single water wheel. And the reason it only uses 108 stress units is because not only does this cart assembler not need any power, but also these mechanical pumps, it does not matter what speed they're spinning at as long as they spin. And you might be thinking, well, you'll also need a lava farm since these mechanical pumps are just pumping out lava, but that's actually not the case, because for some reason when these mechanical pumps pump onto those windmill sail frames to make their cobblestone, they don't actually use any of the lava that's in the fluid tanks above them. And that's about all there is to it with this farm. And if this makes too much cobblestone for you, you can actually downsize it to something like a 2x2x6 like this, or really just any size you want, and this will function just the same, except for it won't be quite as fast. And if you want to know how to build this, I'll show you how to do that real quick. First off, these are all the items we'll need. And we'll want to start by placing down our 3x3x9 block vault, just like this, which we'll need to go on top of to place all of these hoppers. There should be 27 of them since we have a 27 block area on the top of the vault. And then above all of those hoppers, we'll need windmill sail frames. And you want to make sure that they're sail frames and not actual windmill sails, because these have the little hole in the middle where the items can fall through just in case they need to. However, the hoppers have a pretty good range to pick up items, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Oh, and you also want to make sure that all of these pumps face down into the sail frames, or else it won't make the cobblestone. Now we can go ahead and place a block around all of the windmill sail frames and the mechanical pumps, since if we don't have blocks around the sail frames, it will possibly let some of that cobblestone fly out, which we don't want, and water will flow out if we don't have blocks around the pumps. And you might want to place some temporary blocks here, because we are going to replace those with a gearbox and cogwheel. Or I guess we could just do that now. I don't see a reason not to. So we'll just place a cogwheel here with a gearbox underneath. Make sure that's vertical. And also on the side here, we'll place a block with a rail on top of that and a cart assembler with a minecart inside. And then you'll of course need a block on top of that, as well as a lever on the side. And if you hit that lever on, you should see that it starts picking up those windmill sail frames, which is exactly what we want. And while we're down here, we can add this easy access storage system if you want. And before we place our fluid tanks on top, we'll want to just waterlog all of these mechanical pumps. And you can actually do that by placing one water on this corner pump and one on this one, and that'll get this middle one to be an infinite source. And then if you place one here, 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 and here, oh, not lava, that should fill up the entire area. And now we can go ahead and place our fluid tanks on top. And another thing I forgot is that you will also need a pump, an item drain, and a hand crank, and then we can just use the large cogwheel that we already have temporarily. And if we place them like this is how we can put our lava into these fluid tanks, since you can't just right click on them to put it in. And if you put your lava in the item drain and just spin this hand crank till it's all in, and then you'll have to do this with the others as well, and then you should be good, since you won't need any more lava ever. Now we can go ahead and come over here to where we placed our vertical gearbox and cogwheel. And on the side of this gearbox, we'll place a large cogwheel with a rotation speed controller set to 1 RPM, and the direction doesn't matter. And on this side of the rotation speed controller is where we'll be placing our 3 encased chain drives, water wheel, copycat panel to hold the water from going this way, and our water bucket. Dig out a block below so it doesn't have the water flow, or I guess the water will still flow, but it won't flow where you don't want it. And now if we hit this lever, this is the entire build finished. And this whole build only takes up a 11 by 7 by 5 block area. And now we can go ahead and rate this method. For how fast this build makes cobblestone, I'll be giving this a 9 out of 10. And you might be thinking, well, this makes cobblestone super fast. Why is it not a 10 out of 10? Well, I'll show you why when we get to the next method. And then my rating for how easy this is to set up, I'm gonna give it an 6 out of 10, because it's pretty simple to set up. You just need a lot of blocks. This build does cost a lot of iron. Since you have all of those vaults and hoppers, it just adds up to more than 300 iron ingots, which is a good bit. And finally, as for how automatic it is, I'll be giving it the same score as the last one, since, you know, they are both quite automatic. And now it's time to see what the final way to get cobblestone is. So this is the final method to make cobblestone, and it's definitely faster than the last one we just did, because this other one had about 155,000 cobblestone made per hour, whereas this one makes over 300,000 cobblestone per hour. So it's basically just twice as fast as the last one. And there's barely enough time to even see the cobblestone be made. And we already know how the pumps making the cobblestone work, but everything else that's going on here is, first of all, we have these trap doors up here that whenever they are on the contraption, they are allowing the cobblestone to be made. When they get put back down for a very small amount of time, they break that cobblestone. And then we have these andesite funnels here to pick up all of the cobblestone, which will go into this chest. That chest outputs from this brass funnel, and since this is making cobblestone so fast, I literally have to burn it because I don't have a processing line where I can actually use the cobblestone. And if you're wondering, this fills up an entire double chest in about 40-ish seconds. However, the mechanism that is making this move back and forth is a gantry. So basically what happens is we have these two gantry carriages here, and we have two little gantry shafts that are not connected to each other, which is important, because if the red part of the shaft was connected to all of them, then they would kind of just go too far and then not start going back. So one of these gantry carriages makes it go one way and the other one makes it goes back. So this would not work if you only had one gantry carriage. It's also very important that we have a speed controller making this gantry shaft go at 170 RPM, because anything faster will make this not work at all, and anything slower will just make less cobblestone. And then we have the same thing as before, where it only costs 108 stress units because the gantry carriages don't cost any stress, and we only have 27 mechanical pumps, all taking 4 stress units each, because we're spinning them at 1 RPM with this little rotation speed controller. And this will take up an 11 by 5 area. These are all the items you'll need to build this contraption, and keep in mind that you will also need something to output onto, since the chest just won't work. So to start off this build, we'll need a 3 by 10 area of input andesite funnels. Then we'll leave one block in between and start placing down all of the mechanical pumps above. And you only should have 27 mechanical pumps, so there should be one row above the andesite funnels where you don't have anything. And once you've done that, you'll need to place down all 30 of your trap doors above each of the andesite funnels, just like this. Then we'll need to place 4 gantry shafts on this side, and to get these to disconnect, we'll need to right click on one side of this gantry shaft twice, and then we'll do the same thing for this one as well, and you have to right click with a wrench or else, it won't rotate. And this should get you the 2 separate gantry shafts, which we'll place down 2 gantry carriages on, along with a chest in between these two and a brass funnel to output to the side of this one. Then we can place our trap doors on the side of these pumps so the water doesn't flow out. We'll have 1 cogwheel here with a vertical gearbox above it, along with 3 encased chain drives like that. I just realized that I did this wrong, so we'll actually need to have the carriages 1 block off to the side, so they should look like this. That's my bad. And then we'll place our carriages here, our chest, and our brass funnel. And then we can place a large cogwheel here and a rotation speed controller set to 1 RPM. And then we'll attach another one, and you will actually have to remove this pump to place the cogwheel. And then we can go ahead and place it back just like this and set this to 170 RPM exactly, and the direction of rotation doesn't matter. Then we need to waterlog all of these mechanical pumps using that same every other pump method that we did with that last build. And once we have them all waterlogged, we can place our fluid tanks above, and we can actually temporarily pick up one of these mechanical pumps and use that for our item drain. And we can also pick up like this cogwheel, and we can use that for our item drain just like this to get that lava inside. And we'll do that for all 3 of the fluid tanks. And we can go ahead and pick up those items and put back our pump and our fluid tank. And now all of them should have 1 bucket of lava each. And we can also put our large cogwheel back. And now all we need to do is break out this block, place our water wheel here with a trap door like that, or a panel or whatever you want. And then we give this water, and it's not working. And I was wondering why this wasn't working, and it's because I did not give it super glue. And I actually put the andesite funnels on this side as well as the trapdoors, but we do need those on the opposite side. So they should be on this side like this. And from here we can super glue from this andesite funnel all the way over to this trapdoor. And then we can super glue from this trapdoor over to this brass funnel, and that should be all the glue we need. And then if we update this by giving a different direction of rotation, it should start moving just like that. And we now have more cobblestone than I know what to do with, and it's going to start lagging my game pretty bad soon. And now for this build's rating, the speed, we're obviously going to give it a 10 out of 10 because there's not a faster way to get cobblestone than this. And for how easy this is to build, I'll give it the same score as the last one. The only difference is that the reasoning for the last one is it costs a ton of iron, and the reasoning for this one is just that placing down trapdoors can be annoying. And then for the final one, how automatic it is, it gets a 10 out of 10 because, you know, it's fully automatic. You don't have to do anything once you build it. And up on screen now is the average ratings for all of the methods we tested today. And there isn't really a clear winner, since for something like when you're just starting off, obviously mining manually with a pickaxe is going to be the only viable option since you don't have access to brass and tons of andesite and iron. These are all the methods I have for today, and hopefully this helped you learn at least one new method. If not, maybe it helped you know which is the best for you. If you don't agree with any of these ratings, you can leave a comment down below and let me know what you think would be a better rating for the methods instead. And while you're down there, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, share this with any of your friends who may be interested in the Create mod, and maybe even become a member if you want to help support the channel even more. And on screen now is a playlist with all of the Create Mod build tutorials I've ever made, if you wanted to check out some of those as well. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.